Today on the Tearsheet Podcast.
We have basically a new team that is overseeing the direction of Mint, a new leadership team, and we have really brought in an influx of talent into the organization that is versed in the space. The big thing that we realized is that Mint by itself is a product that is incredibly powerful, and as you noted, it was kind of the originator in the space. But it also has a great brand, and it has a very loyal following of users that are incredibly engaged. And so what we wanted to do was really just kind of capitalize on that and take the product to, a different level.
Welcome to the Tearsheet Podcast. I'm Tearsheet's editor-in-chief, Zack Miller. As a pioneer in personal financial management, Mint was a star. But after getting acquired by Intuit, Mint kind of dropped out of the public eye. Years passed, and so many new PFM apps and challenger banks have entered the market. But Mint is back with a new ethos for addressing the challenge of helping consumers with their cash flow. Mint no longer stands alone as a consumer offering at Intuit, which is deep into serving the small business. Intuit bought personal finance leader CreditKarma last year, giving Mint more of a home and a strategy at the firm. Intuit's head of consumer finance, Varun Krishna, joins me on the podcast to discuss where Mint has come from and where it's taking its 25 million users in the future, with a new product update and renewed push to help individuals manage their money. Intuit's Varun Krishna is my guest today on the Tearsheet Podcast.
Hi, my name is Varun Krishna. I'm a senior vice president and general manager at Intuit, and I look after Mint. I've been with the company for about 5.5 years, and really excited to be here with you, Zach, talking about all things personal finance.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. And in those 5 years at Intuit, have you been with Mint the entire time?
No, I actually started as the head of product for TurboTax. And so I look after our consumer tax offering and kind of helped build out the innovation strategy for that. And then I was the chief product officer for our consumer business, looking after both TurboTax and Mint. And then more recently, I switched over to the Mint role where I'm really focused on personal finance.
Have your learnings from the TurboTax days informed you in some of the work you're doing with Mint?
Yes, they really have. One of the great things about Intuit is that we are a very customer obsessed company. And so a lot of the DNA of TurboTax is really focusing on the customer problem, trying to understand where the pain points are, trying to build empathy for customers. And so a lot of that approach and mindset have been really helpful in helping us try to plan out the next chapter of the Mint product as well.
So can we talk about, I guess, we've focused on Intuit a lot through this podcast and our coverage at Tearsheet, less so on the consumer side, more so on the small business side. Can you talk about what the vision is, focusing on the consumer?
Yeah, absolutely. Simply put, our vision at the end of the day is to create financial freedom for all consumers. That is the overall vision for our consumer division. We started to get more serious about our investment in consumer back around when I started. And, our DNA in some sense as a company has been very much focused on bookkeeping, small business, as well as tax. And then more recently, we have really made a big investment in building out our personal finance strategy and vision and organization, because we see just a major opportunity there really to do more for consumers. We see how much pain there is when it comes to debt, when it comes to financial habits, when it comes to emergency savings. And we think the fintech space is an amazing place for us to really have a huge impact, help consumers get out of debt, help them build emergency savings, help them with their financial habits. And so in the past couple of years, we have just really shifted our focus from being focused on that DNA of bookkeeping and tax, which is still the foundation of the company. And we think that there's just a big opportunity for us to make a dent in the financial system for consumers. We think there's a lot of opportunity for us to just be an advocate for consumers and to really be someone who approaches the landscape in a very different way.
So obviously, Mint was one of the pioneers in personal financial management, got acquired by Intuit. And then, there is a lot of competition in the space now. It's much more crowded than when Mint started. And Mint kind of went quiet from my perspective over the past few years. So what's changing now?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one, I want to acknowledge that, over the past several years, we've had a lot of different strategies and teams and organizations that have been focused on Mint. And we've tried to do a lot of different things. And, more recently, we have basically a new team that is overseeing the direction of Mint, a new leadership team. And we have really brought in an influx of talent into the organization that is versed in the space. The big thing that we realized is that, Mint by itself is a product that is incredibly powerful. And, as you noted, it was kind of the originator in the space, but it also has a great brand and it has a very loyal following of users that are incredibly engaged. And so what we wanted to do was really just kind of capitalize on that and take the product to, a different level. So we've been working hard over the past year on a major update to the Mint product experience that we launched in January that we called internally Project Mercury. And in this, we did a couple things. I think one, we obviously addressed some of the biggest requests that we've heard from our loyal Mint users, things like how we show net worth, how we show spending over time, better ways to view your spending month over month. And
I'm sure people were very opinionated, right?
They are, yes. Yeah. Mint users are, they're incredibly engaged.
I could see that.
And very loyal. And so we, in building this update, we made sure that we really listened to our customers. Every single day we were talking to our customers, asking them how they thought about the features that we were releasing. And we were very careful about not doing things to disrupt the aspects of the product that customers really, really liked. And that was a really good learning experience for us. But there's, we have the iOS product in market right now. Customers are loving it. They love the fact that we have now full screen data visualization. We've actually made it easier for them to get access to what we call Mint sites, which are basically data-driven insights that are built into the product. We've added the ability to bulk edit and improve categorization. We've added a new This Month tab that allows you to basically access all of your spending trends and budgets with just one tap instead of a long scroll. We've improved usability. We also have support for things like crypto aggregators. We've added automated subscription tracking. And this is really just a first step. I think you can expect that over the coming months, we're going to continue to add more and more functionality and richer features to the experience and really build out that experience further. We have launched this experience on the iOS platform, and we are just putting the finishing touches on our Android platform as well, which is going to be launching very soon.
That's great. And I really appreciate that timeline. What do you think, Varun, changed that you guys kind of figured it out this time as opposed to the previous times? Like what?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is, part of this is just the process of learning. On some level, I'm really grateful to all of the efforts that we've made in Mint in the past years, because it really allowed us to learn around what problems we can go after, what works, what doesn't work. And, as you know, the personal finance space is quite broad and it's quite diverse. There's everything from products that help you get out of credit card debt to products that, are purely focused on things like banking and checking and savings account. But one thing that we realized is that there's a big problem out there that really not a lot of players are really focused on helping consumers with. And that has to do with really what we think about as discretionary spending and habits. One of the biggest challenges that consumers face when it comes to finances is just how do they think about, just the consequences of the habits that they have around their money. For some people, when they have a certain amount of money in their bank account, they will spend that money no matter how much it is. For others, they have just sort of just natural human nature type cognitive biases when it comes to things like short-term versus long-term needs. Understanding the difference between a decision that they make now and what impact that decision may have on their future. And so what we did this time around is we really honed in on that particular problem around spending. How do we help consumers unlock lasting money saving habits? How do we help them spend less than they make? And how do we actually help them spend smarter? And so we have really focused in on that. And we have, for example, we've launched models to help predict and warn customers if they're heading toward an overdraft. And in the first year of this launch, we saved our customers $1 million. We launched the capabilities I mentioned earlier to monitor subscriptions and bills for price increases that customers may not be aware of. And in the first 3 months of the launch, we found $25 million in new subscriptions or price increases for almost 750,000 customers. So part of it is just really trying to understand, how do people spend money? What are the habits that they have focused on from a day-to-day or week-to-week perspective? And how can we actually help them with those particular habits in service to their goals? And so that's become, a really, I would say, dedicated focus for us. And we think it's an area that there's not a lot of other, products out there that are really focused on helping consumers spend less. And it's also something that we think Mint is very naturally tuned toward, and it's something that we think we can make a big impact. And what's also awesome is, there's also an opportunity for us to really introduce things like gamification and really help consumers almost think about spending as a challenge, right? Like, can I take on a particular spending challenge this week or this month? Can I try to go into like a no spend day? If I go to the bar with my buddies, can I maybe take on a challenge to order the well instead of the premium? So there's lots of interesting ways that we think we can influence consumer behavior, and so that is an area that we're really excited about focusing on.
It's an interesting point you made also, that many other competitors aren't necessarily focused on consumer spending less, especially if they're monetizing interchange fees. They're sort of incentivized to get people to spend more.
Right.
Where do you see Mint's influence, I guess, beginning and ending? Obviously, spending and getting, delayed gratification, consumers focused on, using analytics to stay within their means. Like, that's a huge undertaking. Do you plan to get into money movement, the way you have with QuickBooks Cash? Is there an intention to play more of a banking role than just a personal finance role?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think for us, the way we look at the space is we're going to go where we need to go to solve the customer problem. And to your point, one of the great things about Intuit as a company is that we have a number of key capabilities that we're investing in to build out our fintech platform as a company. And so while I can't share, in detail exactly, what we will and won't do, I think a big part of our strategy is to continue to invest and grow. So it's one thing to sort of intervene on behalf of the consumer and say, hey, we think you should be spending less in this particular place, or to provide an insight. But we think we can go a step further. And obviously, it's greater if you can actually just move the money on behalf of the consumer. And so the nice thing is we do have a number of capabilities as a company that allow us to basically do more in this space. And we also think that the combination of Mint and CreditKarma really become more of a powerful combination when you think about the breadth of all the things that we can do together.
Can you talk about that, the breadth of the tie-up between CreditKarma and Mint?
Well, I think if you kind of step back and just think about the overall landscape, what we have really noticed is that there's a set of key problems that exist for customers that we think we can help them with. There's on one end of the spectrum, there are things like high cost debt, where consumers get into the wrong kind of financing. They get a high interest credit card, they get a high interest mortgage. They end up, having to deal with things like payday loans or pay advances. And what we want to do in that case is really focus on helping them with automation and artificial intelligence to actually reduce that debt by basically getting into lower cost interest situations. And this is a problem space that we think companies like CreditKarma are perfectly suited to help with, because a big part of that is the DNA of what CreditKarma does as well. The other thing that we think is interesting here is just also leveraging artificial intelligence, leveraging machine learning, and just automating the process, right? Like, instead of making customers have to understand compound interest and have to fill out complex forms, why don't we just pre-fill the data, make things one click, and just get you to a better debt situation without a lot of heavy lifting on your part. Then kind of in the middle, there's this area that just has to do with savings, and this is where I think, to your point, there's a lot of functionality and products that are out there that aren't necessarily helping you with your particular situation, especially when you look at like banking type products. Like, one of the favorite things I like to point out is that there's a reason why your bank, doesn't go out of their way to remind you that you're going to overdraft your account when they probably know that you are, because they're their business model is built around things like overdraft fees. And so we think that there's I think we think that we have a moral obligation to basically create offerings that can actually help you with a different kind of checking account or a different kind of savings account. One that maybe is more similar to a product that has no fees, or that it has reminders, that has notifications, that really tries to help you avoid overdraft fees. And so thinking about that middle problem, it's really about building savings, helping you create that emergency fund that most consumers don't have. And so that's an opportunity that we think we have that's kind of at the intersection of CreditKarma and Mint. And then, as I said earlier, the third problem that we're really focused on is just that day-to-day habit forming. How do we help consumers build good financial habits? And a big part of our strategy there is obviously connecting to their spending, but then also helping consumers protect themselves from themselves, by whether it's moving money or whether it's, helping consumers sign up for spending challenges and things like that. And then just fundamentally educating them from a content and financial literacy perspective on how better habits basically will allow them to achieve their long-term goals.
I know we have time for one last question. I'm curious if the Mint revenue model has evolved over time.
Yeah, it's a very good question. And, I think today, the Mint offering is free for customers, and it is the most, functional personal finance app that's out there. And we're really proud of that because our monetization, strategy allows us to basically deliver a highly functional product to customers that they engage with and that they enjoy. Now, that being said, we have today a monetization model where we have, we call it Beyond User Paid, where we basically offer financial products in our marketplace. And if users are interested in a particular product, whether it's a credit card or personal loan or mortgage, which is a new experience that we're going to be launching soon, we allow consumers to shop for those financial products. And that's been our only monetization strategy. This coming year is going to be the first year where we'll be testing into a couple of new areas. We've heard from many customers that, they don't like the ads that are in Mint, and many customers are saying, hey, I'd be happy to pay for a small fee for a version of Mint that has no ads, that just allows me to focus on my finances. So we're going to be testing some ideas there. And we're also testing into, a more advanced functionality, leveraging freemium type business models that we've learned from other offerings in the space. And then we're also going to be testing, potentially things like services where we can offer things like financial advice and other areas as well. So it's still, really early days. But this year we are planning to experiment into some diversification strategies around monetization. And we're pretty excited about that and would love to, at the right time, maybe come back and talk to you more about that.
Yeah, we'd like to hear that as well. Varun, thank you for joining us on the Tearsheet Podcast.
That was my pleasure. Thank you so much for the time, Zach. I really enjoyed the conversation.